everybody. My name is Lee Brock, and I'm one of the co-artistic directors of the Barrow Group. And for those of you who don't know who the Barrow Group is, we are a nonprofit theater company and training facility that works with a very specific acting aesthetic, which helps the actors get looser, more spontaneous, more like you're watching real people in real situations. So when an audience is watching a play or a scene at the Barrow Group, they're able to come in to the experience and have a deeper and richer experience. But today we are having an artist conversation with the fabulous Amy Hargraves. And Amy has been a part of the Barrow Group for a long time. I'm gonna say over 20 years because we started it when we were 5, right? And so Amy is a wonderful actor of the stage, and she has done film, and she has done television, and she has done video games. She's also a member of Fab Women at TBG, which is a branch of the Barrow Group, which gives actors the opportunity to write and direct. So she has also done that, but she's done lots of things, but kind of known for Homeland, playing on Homeland, and also 13
Reasons Why.
13 Reasons Why. So that's 13 Reasons Why. So Amy, welcome. We're so glad that you're here this afternoon and hanging out with us. So how's it going?
It's going great, actually. I'm happy to see your face, because I mean, we need to share immediately that we've known each other, for years and years and years. And
Right.
we did 2 plays together back to back in probably the early mid-90s, and that was the beginning of a really beautiful friendship. And I've spoken to you on the phone, but I haven't seen you, so it's nice to see your face.
It's nice to see your face.
Yeah.
And the plays that we did together were a play called Trust by Stephen Dietz, and we also did a play called Living Proof at the Jewish Repertory Theater, where you just kind of said that you got your equity card.
Yes, that was my first equity show. I don't know, 92, 93, 94, something like that. And it was lovely. It was a fun experience. That theater is no longer, sadly.
I know.
That was up on 90th Street between, I think, 1st and 2nd Avenues, some strange northern location for an equity house, but it was nice.
Beautiful little theater. It was a really beautiful theater. So what's been inspiring you these days here, Miss Amy?
What's been inspiring me? I think it's what's been inspiring me during the pandemic and during the shutdown is kind of what inspires me throughout my life. And those are my various creative communities that I find a lot of love and support and inspiration from, no matter where I've been in my life and in my career, and especially, over the last year. So I've been fortunate enough to work with the 24-hour plays before the shutdown, and then they pivoted to doing online viral monologues. And that was one of the first calls I got last year. A couple days into the lockdown, Mark Armstrong, the artistic director over there, emailed me, said, we're going, virtual. We're doing monologues instead of one-act plays. Are you in? And I literally wept. I cried because it was something, we were facing this unknown abyss of who knows what. And it was just something creative to kind of, bite my teeth into. And so I think I've done 3 or 4 monologues for them. And I actually did a one-act play in December when they tried to do that for, one of the times. It was fantastic. So that, of course, always Barrow Group community is something that inspires me. I don't think you know this, but and this is a little scoop. Ann Richardson Hansen, who we love.
I know her very well. Yes.
Another member of Fab and a talented actress and a lovely human being who also has pivoted to writing quite successfully in the last few years. We're developing a screenplay together, and we've been meeting over the course of the quarantine. At first, it was every 2 weeks. We would sit down and have like a 2-hour phone call to develop story and character and plot. And now we've squeezed it down to once a week because we're kind of really moving. So we're developing the story together, and then she's going to write it, and we're in a really great place. So that's something that I never imagined I would be doing a year ago, but I just, I'm ready to, and that's actually a project that I'm going to direct. So I reached out to Anne because we had been talking about her writing over the past few years. I said, you know what? Let's do something together, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of two little fun things that have been keeping me busy.
That's
And
great.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's fantastic. That is,
it is.
that's totally fantastic.
And I've also been really lucky enough to actually work during the last year. I once Screen Actors Guild approved, it was called The Way Forward, the document that was, how to incorporate COVID protocols and make the sets safe for us to go back to work. That passed, I think, in June.
Right.
And in July, I went out to Columbus, Ohio to do a little indie feature for 5 or 6 weeks.
They, them, us?
That's they, them, us.
They, them, us. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Well, it's a blended family romantic comedy about these very lovely, normal people in Columbus, Ohio. And my character just happens to also be a dominatrix. So there's that. It's a comedy. Don't get scared. It's a comedy. And it's actually very sweet. So I'm single and have 2 teenagers, and this guy played by Joey Slotnick, who's amazing. He's single, has 2 teenagers. We meet online and kind of hit it off, but hijinks ensue, including I learned how to use a whip for that, which was add that to my special skills because I'm pretty good at
knows how to use a whip. And how long were you out there for?
I was out there for about 5.5 weeks. I went out at the end of July and came back at the beginning of September. And it was a little scary, honestly, because it was like we were one of the earlier films out of the gate.
Right.
It was like us in Jurassic Park, and with $1 billion budget and over in England, and we were just this tiny little, indie. But the producers handled the COVID protocols beautifully. We were all zone A. If people follow what that means, we were all zone A and were tested every other day, cast, crew, everybody. And we really came to trust each other and to kind of become this little family. And we got through the entire project with no positives, and everybody was safe and sound. And that's a wrap. See you later.
That is so good.
Yeah.
When does that come out?
Well, let's see. They've got a really nice rough cut. I think he's done with it now. I saw like 2 versions of the rough cuts over the last couple months. But the director, John Sherman, has been submitting it to festivals, but is also kind of, I think it's a tricky time because everything's virtual right now. Right. So it's like, do you submit and try to get into an amazing festival, but then there's kind of no there, or do you kind of hold back a few months and wait and see if maybe things in the fall might be busier? So honestly, I haven't spoken to him about what his strategy is right now, but I think it's in a pretty good place where he's confident to submit to festivals and see where it's going to land. It'll land someplace great. You have to just trust that movies find their home.
Yes, movies find their home. That's right.
They do.
And they do find their home. And I think people are so hungry right now for content that's fantastic. But you've done a lot of indie films. You've done a lot.
Yeah, I really have.
What are some of your favorite ones that you've done?
Let's see. Well, I had How We Fell in Love. It's
right.
Really sweet.
Fantastic in that. So fantastic.
Thank you. Also starring Seth Barish, co-artistic director of the Barrow group.
I don't know if he was starring like you were. You were really the star. But Seth Barish, I think, was in that. But that was a wonderful evening.
Yeah, a lovely little indie. What else do I love? That Blue Ruin was really fantastic, and just not really my kind of. It's kind of like a dirty, gritty little kind of revenge thriller, kind of violent. Not really my kind of movie that I would gravitate toward. But when I read that script, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I've never read a script that was so tight and so alive, and it came off the page in such a way that it was just, there wasn't a false note. It was so beautifully written. I was kind of shocked. So I read for it. They offered me the role, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into because these people were kind of untested and and it was the director cast his best friend in the lead role, which is always a red flag. But I got down to Virginia to shoot this, and these guys were great. And we ended up getting into Cannes and winning a prize at we were in the director's fortnight section at Cannes Film Festival in, I think, 2013. Won a prize there, came back, got into Sundance, kind of went in there and, you know, cleaned up. And it's a great little movie. So that one, but I guess those two are probably my favorites. Super Dark Times is also real great.
Yeah, Super Dark Times, you're wonderful.
I love that little movie.
That's
I love doing indies because it's like, it's kind of like, let's put on a show, you know, and it's very close to the ground filmmaking, and you really get to know each other. And
yeah.
It's
like creating little families, you know, well, in doing any sort of project, you're creating a family with every project that you do, I think. Yeah.
You absolutely do. But on an indie, instead of there being, you know, 10 grips, there's one, or, you know, and so it's really kind of like everybody has to be totally on their A game, and a lot of the crew might be a bit younger and still learning, so they're not jaded and they're excited to be there. And I don't know, it just has a special vibe.
That's good. That is so great. That's so great. And hopefully to inspire more people to do their own movies and to
absolutely,
you know, kind of, what do you want to say as an artist, and get yourself out there and just, you know, do your own thing. That's good. So you started acting when you were really young.
I did, yeah.
Right. And so what was your first acting audition?
Beyond community theater, you mean? Because I was Baby June on Long Island at the Bohemia, whatever it's called, Airport Playhouse. My first kind of more professional audition, I came into New York City when I was 10 years old, and I waited online outside the Plaza Hotel with zillions of other little girls to go to the open call for the movie Annie. And it was an amazing experience. You know, we went in, and you know, they separate you right away. You know, you just sing a few bars. Okay, left, right, left, right, left, right. And I kept going to the good side and getting, you know, to the next thing and the next thing that day. And then they said, okay, come back tomorrow. Oh, okay. We got a hotel, slept over, come back in a week. Oh, okay. And then come back in another week and screen test. So I started out with this, you know, crowd of zillions, and ended up, you know, one of maybe 10 girls in New York who screen tested. And I met John Huston. I was in the little amphitheater with the big, you know, movie camera, and it was dazzling. Didn't get it.
That's okay. That's a fantastic first audition, right?
It really was. And what was really nice about it was they treated us very nicely. It was, you know, I got a beautiful letter from them letting me know after the screen test that it wasn't going any further, but like, they didn't have to do that. That's the last time that's ever happened to me in this career. Usually it's like, what happened? I thought I was going to get that. Oh, well. So that was lovely. I still have that letter somewhere.
Throw those things away. Throw those things away.
Yeah, you got to save those. And that was actually nice too, because I was, you know, the youngest of 5, and we were all very musical and sang a lot. And my mom did community theater, and you know, my sisters and I did also. My brother's a musician, or is a musician. But this was the first taste of something a little, you know, outside of our little world, and it gave my parents and me, you know, the idea that, oh, maybe this could be a thing. Maybe I could do okay at this, you know, having gone so far. But then nothing happened for probably a year. And then, because we weren't pursuing anything, I was just going back to being a normal kid. And then about a year later, there was another open call for an off-Broadway show up here at the comic strip, actually on the Upper East Side, called the Professional Children's Review, which was a song and dance kind of review. I went to the open call, I got cast, and I was in that show for a year, only on the weekend. Wow. It was so fun. It was so smart. It was a comedy club.
Where was it?
I'm sorry?
Where was it?
At the comic strip, which is on 80th between, I'm sorry, 2nd Avenue between, I think, 81st and 82nd.
Okay.
It was, the comedy club was just trying to make some money during the day. So they would have 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday at, you know, 12 and 2 or 12 and 3. And it was a little musical review of kids that were on Broadway at the Metropolitan Opera Chorus. people from Long Island who weren't professional, but just trying. And it was so fun. We sang and danced, and it was an equity waiver. So we didn't get paid. We just got like food. And like people would drop, like really famous kid actors would drop in, Rick Schroeder, Sarah Jessica Parker, Allison Smith, like big deal people.
That's
So
great.
that was my first job, although I didn't get paid. But then I got a manager from that, and I got cast in some commercials from that, and then it was off to the races.
Right. So that's one of the questions, like people, young actors might ask, like, how do you get an agent or how do you get a manager? That beautiful question. And you just answered that by your manager came to see you in the show and you were young.
Yes, I was a child. Yeah. And I think it's easier for young people to get agents and managers than it is for old folks like us. Honestly, it's just, because there's a lot of roles for young people, and how would you go about, I mean, it's hard to, they need to see your work. So I'm not really sure how, I think that the showcases at the end of acting programs are obviously fantastic. Some of those like pay to play Actors Access-y kind of things, I don't like those, just because I don't want anyone to have to spend money to, put themselves in front of agents or casting people. But it seems like that's kind of where the industry has gone.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. I think when we were coming up, like the agents and managers would go out and see people in shows, and they were constantly going out and looking at showcases, and also there were people that loved the theater and loved it. So there was that kind of thing. And I think, some of these places that are meeting agents and managers, I mean, I think that is kind of the way things are going. So
unfortunately.
And I do know people that have gotten work from them. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I would say another idea, and it comes back to this idea of your creative community, is talk to your friends, talk to your contacts. Don't be afraid to ask. If you have a friend who has a great relationship with their agent, ask them, say, would you be interested? I'm looking for representation. Would you put my material in front of your reps? I mean, some people might not want to do that, but I do that for people all the time. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no,
That's good. Just to kind of take the risk and go, could you say something to your manager for me?
Yeah, exactly. So, it can't hurt to ask. You have to be bold. And if you're going to go into this industry, you have to kind of you have to be willing to kind of put yourself out there. And that's a good, first step.
Yeah. So good. And so Amy, so your process, the acting process, like when you get a script, what do you do when you get a script, or if you're cast in something, or your Homeland experience? I remember you kind of told that story when you got Homeland and your dad said, "Oh, this is the break that you've been waiting for," and you were going,
"This is the job you've been waiting for a long time."
Right.
And I said, "Yes, it is."
God, yes, it is. So I don't think that there are any breaks in this business, because you have to kind of keep going, and it's all process, and we're all creatives, and we just have to keep being creative. And but your process, maybe like when you're on a set, like what do you do?
So for me, it's always about the script and the words on the page. And it's kind of like my safety blanket. It's my Bible. It's where I just keep my focus. So I find that reading and rereading and rereading and rereading, I discover something new every time, even right up to when I'm walking on set. I still have my nose in the paper, just because it also is a way for me to focus. So I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if it's terribly insightful, but I just trust the words, and I spend time with it. I find that I like to spend time reading scripts before I go to bed, because there's something that happens overnight or just like as I'm drifting off to sleep, where I'm just spending time with the material I just read and just thinking about the character and the relationships, and then something fresh comes in the morning. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Is that
no, that's really
insightful?
good. That's fantastic. Because also kind of people are, you're really fast with your lines too. Like as a, you've always been really fast with,
Meaning I speak fast or I learn
oh,
fast or
you take them in fast, you memorize fast, or you
do
kind
I?
of,
Okay, maybe I do.
I
I
think,
don't even try. I don't try to memorize. That's another thing. I'm not like, I know some people are like, oh, I have to be off book for the table read. I'm
right,
like, what?
right.
Why
Yeah,
would you do that? Because
yeah,
also, I mean, especially in TV, things get rewritten all the time. So
right.
I like to, this reminds me, I think of a project, was this like Living Proof with Alan Coulter, where like we were like,
They changed
for,
it all the time. Yeah,
they wanted, right. That was also, it was almost like he wanted us to like force, like to feel like compelled to get on our feet. Like he didn't want us on our feet too
right.
early because then it would be like false. He wanted us to kind of bathe in the script, bathe in the play, and then it was like, oh, now it's kind of block itself, you know.
Right, right.
So I'm kind of that way with when I'm shooting film or television, I really don't memorize really until the night before.
Interesting.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, she's fast. So that whole thing, but also, I talk about in teaching that people are different learners or different type
Yeah,
of learners.
sure.
Like you're like that visual thing about reading it over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Like Seth's very auditory. He has to, talk it over and over and over and
Oh,
over.
really? Oh, interesting.
I'm like kind of visual and kinesthetic.
Mhm.
Philip, my son, is kinesthetic. He has to bounce a ball while memorizing stuff, moving around. So it's interesting how
Oh, wow.
people take information in differently. But I love the fact that just read it over and over. And I love what you said that you discover something new each time that you read it. And just even
And
reading it.
and also, like a lot of times you're kind of like blowing through the dialogue. I will stop myself. I do this on auditions too. Right before I'm going to go in the room, within 15 minutes, I reread the sides and every direction, all the stage directions. Because I'm like, am I missing something here? Because I know a lot of times we throw the stage directions out, but it can be helpful if you're going in on an audition. You're like, oh, I missed that. There's a sigh there, or there's a, she rolls her eyes, or whatever, or she's getting up and turning around. It can inform the material and the character in a different way. So I make a point of rereading every piece of punctuation on that page that's before an audition.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's
Remember
good.
auditions?
Auditions. So now they're the Zoom auditions and the all of the self
tapes. I have just sent off some amazing self tapes. So stupid.
All good.
I mean, it's not stupid. It's just like it becomes, I'm dragging my teenage daughter and asking her to read with me, or I'm taping up the phone and have, a friend on FaceTime with a good eye line. It's just, but this is what we do.
It's what we do, and people are adaptable, and actors adapt to different things.
I actually think that those kinds of tests are they're very useful in that real life on real sets, it's not that precious. I've done my close-ups with a piece of tape because the actor I was working with couldn't stop giggling, and I had to say, get off set. I mean, good nature, let's just get this over with and do my coverage real quick with get out. Or somebody gets sick and they're not there, or there's stuff happening in your eye line, you have to be able to do your audition with the person on FaceTime and make it good.
Yeah.
Because it's not all perfect all the time. It rarely is.
Right. And and we don't want it to be perfect anyway, because it's not human, right?
Perfect is boring.
So Miss Amy, so challenges, like what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had like in your career? Is that a good question?
Let's see. I think one of the like bigger picture challenges has been I had the 90s were a great decade for me career wise. Okay. I just kind of went up,
They totally were. We were doing Living Proof, and Amy's like driving around in her little convertible in New York City, buying her condo. I'm going, why is she doing that? Oh yeah, I have to pay for my garage for my little convertible. So you have a convertible in New York City? Isn't like, LA. So the 90s, I think, were very good for you.
The 90s were very good. And I got my master's, and I'm, starring in big movies.
Political science too. Can we talk about political science?
Yes. So I was just bing, bang, boom, setting them up, knocking them down. And I think in 1997, I was nominated for a Cable Ace Award for a film I did on HBO called Flashback. Things were just kind of moving and grooving. And then, this is so horrible. I got married, love it, great. I had my first child in 2000. And when I was like 2 or 3 months pregnant with him, nobody knew yet, I got flown out to test for a pilot for NBC. It was a sitcom, which I think I'm hilarious, but the world is yet to catch on. Thank you. But I don't generally get hired for comedy. So I was very excited about this, trying to land all the jokes and stuff. And I get out there, and my mind, I'm so kind of overwhelmed by the idea of, I wasn't like, I hadn't come into my own yet in terms of like confidence as a woman and a mom. It's also a long time ago. Things have changed a little bit. Sorry, my radiator's loud. So I was freaking out about the fact that I was pregnant. It was a secret. I was like, what's going to happen if I get this pilot, and then we'll shoot it in a month? And then what if it gets picked up? It'll go in 4 months, and I'm going to be 9 months pregnant. Is that unethical of me not to say, so I was going, So I walk in to test at NBC with the amphitheater of suits and all these people, and you're like, it's stressful. And I love it. I loved the entire thing. Like I kept saying, like 3 times in a row, I said let's say I'm doing the scene and it's supposed to be talking to Steve, but referring to Bob. I'm, saying Bob instead of Steve, and Steve. I just kept saying the wrong character name. I did it 3 separate times. First, and everyone's like, oh, no big deal. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna do it again. I did the same thing again. Everybody's a little awkward. And the 3rd time I was like, I gotta go. So anyway, I didn't get that. Didn't book that. That pilot didn't go though. So then I came home to New York, had my son, and about 2 months later, I remember holding him in my arms in my apartment, and my agent called me, and they were dropping me. My agent dropped me, and I was home with my baby, like, we're gonna work again. And that was it. I couldn't get an agent. I couldn't get an agent after that.
Really? Oh, wow.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Oh, wow. Wow.
I was working with a lawyer at that point who had been very lovely. He was based in LA. I called him. Now, I always had a commercial and voiceover agent. Right. Never a problem. I'm talking about legit television theater.
Yeah.
I called the agent I called the lawyer in LA to be like, hey, is there anybody, and he's like, yeah, let me pitch you around to a few people, which was very generous of him. Pass. Everybody passed on me. So I'm like, wow, okay, I'm 30. I'm a mother. I'm no longer, I was 28 playing 18, for a while. And I'm like, who am I now? What am I going to do?
Right.
So I went back to the theater, Lee Rock. I got cast in a 1-act play at the Vital Theater Company. I did that play and I loved it.
Yeah, that's good.
My manager was in the audience, my current manager. And she's like, I want to represent you. I was like, okay. No. She was just starting out. I was like, what do I have to lose? And that's it. We've been working together ever since. And that is so great. So great. What was the question? What was my big obstacle?
Like, challenges in your
and that's the idea of that, is like, this career is it's not for the faint of heart. It's challenging. I was kind of at the top for a second, and then not so much. And then, you kind of find your way, and it's like you said, there's no breaks. Yes, was Homeland one of my breaks? Absolutely. But I've had many. And when you think that the mistake is thinking, oh, here's my break, it's never the one you think it is, So it's the challenge is just kind of can you ride this creative life and keep going when things aren't going so well?
Right, but you've got your beautiful little son, so you've got your, your son, and all that. Things happen for a reason, and
Absolutely.
that whole thing. It's like career. You can't make the career happen. Like you can't push the river. The career is something that happens to you. So, looking at that, projects that come into our life, or you meet your manager from just doing that that show, and you've got your two beautiful children, and kind of the larger, opened up all these other doors for you.
Absolutely. And it's funny because being I'm somebody who prefers doing things to having things, besides the convertible when I was 23, that was silly. But having children, and this is going to sound, I don't know if this is going to sound ridiculous, but like, obviously I'm thrilled. I love being a mother, but like as an actor, like becoming a mother, I had played a mother before I was a mother, like a teen, drug addict mother, whatever. Yeah. Once I became a mother, I was like, oh God, this is like, it just opens up this whole another thing.
Right. Where the life experiences kind of feed your, your creative.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, win-win.
Win-win. It's all a win-win. It's a win-win. So also, like, let me see, like the projects, like you do a lot of indie films, actors that are creating their own projects. I mean, do you think actors have like a responsibility to kind of help our society, or heal the society, or?
Oh, I mean, a responsibility kind of feels like maybe it might put a burden on somebody who doesn't have the capacity to do that. But I mean, I think if you feel so compelled and you can, then absolutely you should. And I love seeing all these kind of creative things kind of percolating up on Instagram and things like that. There's this amazing woman, Amy Lajoie. Have you seen her?
Yes.
And it's just the neatest thing because she's so funny. She does all the film crew videos. It's like shit, grips say, shit directors say, but also she has the film crew, which is funny. She kind of caricatures all the people on a film crew. And I messaged her on Instagram just to congratulate her, not even message her, like commented or something. And she reached out to me and asked me if I would be a part of one of her, she was going to do the shit actors say. I was like, yes, I'll do that in a second. So here we are in the pandemic, I'm like doing all these funny things. And I ended up in her little clip, and it's brought so much joy and humor to a lot of people. So, good on her for doing that.
And so good. Amy, you're so good at the leading with the yes. I mean, just someone says, just you lead with yes. Or if someone throws you something, you'll go, yeah, I'm game. Or I'm going to do that 24-hour play festival, which I saw you do that in New York. You go, I'm panicked about this.
It's terrifying. You're like, you're waiting in the wings to go on, and you're like, if I leave now, maybe I don't have to do this. It's like the light curtains up. You're like, oh God, no, I'm nauseous. But it's the great equalizer, because everybody's feeling that way. You have all these, accomplished actors. Everybody's going, oh God,
And maybe you could talk about that, what that is, your 24-hour play fest, or what that is.
So it's called the 24-hour plays, and it's actually, I think it's also a nonprofit. It's a charitable organization that usually does plays on Broadway and off Broadway and all around the world, really, that each time it benefits some sort of kind of theater related organization. So how it works typically is Sunday night at 8:00. I think it's 12 actors or 16 actors, writers and directors get together, and the actors present, they bring a costume piece, a prop, they present a special skill that they have, and they say something that they've always wanted to do on stage. And then the writers and directors listen to all this. The actors go home, go to sleep. They cast the pieces. The writers start to write overnight. So it's not, I forget how many actors, 24 actors and 8 writers or something like that. The writers write overnight, all night, 1-act plays. And then in the morning at 9 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, we come back together, have a little breakfast, and they announce the pieces. Okay, so-and-so wrote this. This is the director, and here's the cast. Go rehearse. And then you go off for the day and rehearse, and you put the show up that night, Monday night at 8 o'clock, like on Broadway. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, and then, everybody has a drink and goes home, and it's all for a good cause. So that pivoted to monologues during the pandemic. So it's the same concept. It's just there's no director, and it's just they write you a monologue. So you literally, and it's Monday to Tuesday usually. You wake up Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, there's a 5-page monologue in your inbox, and you're like, oh God. And you have to, memorize it and film it and have it back to them by 5 o'clock.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fabulous. That is so fabulous. And as you said, Stephen, just with you, just leading with yes, I will do this. Even with Anne Richardson Hansen, it's like, yes, let's create a project together. Yes, let's do this. Yes, you have this monologue. Let's go for that. And I think just even in this business as creatives, we kind of have to do all of that, or kind of lead with if the door opens, kind of have to go through that. And
absolutely. And I think it's also telling that that I want to do all those things. I'm not pushing. I'm like, I am up for anything new. Like I'm up for an adventure. So I love that kind of stuff. It's terrible. And I like, you got to go towards what scares you too. Absolutely have to. That's why you're getting ready to direct. And, I'm not scared to direct, but it's a big undertaking, and but I'm ready. Yeah,
you're going to be fabulous. You're even kind of just moving into that, directing stuff, writing stuff, just moving it all forward. That's fantastic. So and also just would like to open this up for any questions. If anybody has questions for Amy, you can kind of type that in, or Quinn will type that in. So I will kind of just look at here's one. So has anything surprised you in your career? That's a very interesting question.
Sure. When I don't get the part and I think I thought I did great. Clearly they've made a huge mistake, and I'm very surprised.
The word surprised, right? Surprised.
I think, what's surprising is kind of like what I was speaking about with the 24-hour plays. It's no matter how accomplished and successful other actors might be, we're all vulnerable, and we're all frequently unemployed and worrying about what that next gig is, if it's ever going to exist, if I'm ever going to get hired again. I think it was Henry Fonda, who said something like, every job, when he finished, wrapped every film or whatever project, he was like, well, that's it, I'm never going to work again, kind of, and we all have that terror. And that's actually been a good little lesson to realize that, oh wow, everybody, we're all the same, no matter what level you're at,
okay, so here's another question. What did you think you had to do when you started acting, and now with experience you realize that you don't need to do? Oh, that's a really good question.
Ooh.
So what did you had to do when you started acting, and now with that experience you realize that you don't need to do that anymore?
I mean, this is going to sound really lame, but this is I had to do a scene, this was in the 90s, where my character was supposed to cry, and I was like, okay, let me have a backup plan to like do a thing where I physically can make myself cry, rather than like have something happen that was organic. And I think I, instead of just dropping in and listening and being, I was kind of like relied on that physical thing, like kind of the technique, the gag of it. And I was able to kind of conjure up a couple tears, which is fine. But I've since learned that don't work. That's not a good way to do it. It's better. It's really just about sitting back and listening and connecting with the material. Like if you can connect with the material, then it's just, no matter what, if it's an emotional scene or not,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really about connecting with the material.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, technique, I've heard the phrase technique is what you use when you don't feel it, but hopefully you feel it.
Yeah. Or something's going on. Right. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So letting that obligation, even letting that obligation go. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Here's another one. Did you take any acting classes?
I've taken exactly one acting class in my entire life, and it was Shakespeare at the Barrow Group with Seth Barish. So the rest of the time I'm just faking it. I've learned as I've gone along, and I've learned from many, many talented people that I've worked with, and directors and writers and other actors, of course. And there's nothing like, doing it and learning as you do it.
Right. Because that's the biggest thing. Just, we're learning every single
Yeah.
time that you do a project, and learning, I always kind of say though too, it's not even like people, actors might get married to their technique, and it's not about the technique anyway. It's just about, is the audience drawn into the experience? And you're so right that you're learning from everybody around you, from actors, directors, playwrights, costume people, just everything on just how to get your acting looser and to serve the story. Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like I kind of dropped in with you guys at the Barrow Group early on, doing reading, like staged readings and things in the 90s. And then I did trust with you guys. And
right.
I feel like whatever I was doing kind of was Barrow Group technique without me even knowing it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we've kind of connected and kind of settled in together over the years.
Yeah, because you were part of the Barrow Group Annex, so you were part of that Barrow Group.
True. We need to memorialize that group. That was a good group.
Right. A Barrow Group, Barrow Group Annex started in the 90s. So Amy was just kind of doing all of that very loose, spontaneous, real thing that we kind of talk about doing. So she was already kind of doing it. So yeah. Dennis O'Hare, who lives in Paris now.
I know, it's so fabulous.
I know.
More fabulous.
I know.
Working all the time.
Working all the time. So I have another, so apart from reading your script many times, any other way that you used to be in character? So how do you get in character?
I mean, it depends. I find that, being this is more film and television oriented, but being on set can be very distracting. And I find, finding a quiet corner and just being, just not being distracted. It's very easy to, people are goofing around. There's a bazillion things going on. So just kind of staying quiet and focused and kind of being on my own is helpful. I've done tricks where, for example, when if I have to do an accent, this is another Barrow Group, creative community. Little Miss Sarah Street helped me out. She did a solid for me when I was casting a film. Friends of mine were doing a film. They're like, can you come down to Austin for 2 days and play this role? We'll send you the script. I was like, I'll do it. I'm like, I love these people so much. I was like, I'll read it, but whatever you want. They're like, oh, and by the way, she's Irish. She's an Irish missionary. I was like, what? Oh, okay. So our friend Sarah Street is from Cork. And I immediately, texted her. I was like, can you do all my lines and send them to me in a voice note? And we actually had a specific conversation because this is a period piece. She was like a Protestant missionary in like the 1940s. So Sarah, knowing her world in Ireland, was like, I kind of have a sense of what this woman might sound like in terms of, there's lots of different, Irish accents.
Yeah.
So she kind of gave it to me like that. And I was literally on set of that movie with the headphones on, like doing it, listening. And I put the things down. I went and I shot. So it was
Wow.
like I was literally doing Sarah Street doing my
Right.
character in that.
That is great.
So,
Well,
you know,
anything to get the job done, right? So, and accents, like working with
absolutely.
accents, you just kind of hear Sarah's
Yeah.
lines or Sarah's,
Mhm.
accent in there, and she's so good with all kinds
She's so,
of accents.
she's so good. And
Mm.
she's actually writing too now. I don't know if I'm telling tales out of school.
She is. I know she is.
Mhm.
I mean, she's been writing
Mhm.
for years.
We
So
might be having dinner together soon, by the way.
that's
So yes, this creative community. We also, something that I love to do, I love reading other people's, projects that they're working on and giving notes. I'm like the best note giver. I'm just like, la la la, it's just fun. It's fun and also to just kind of help people go to new places.
right. And I love this. Like you and I do this too. It's like elevating other people, and that really kind of comes from our, creative community. Just how can we elevate other people, support our fellow artists to help them be the best that they possibly can be. And it is kind of scary for Anne, Sarah, I'm writing, and how do we put that out there in the world? It's a very vulnerable thing. Great, so I have another question here. So Lee, so what are some jobs that you've held that have helped support your income when you weren't working in the field, and how to get the creative outlet when you're not working? Okay, so you probably, you always had jobs, right?
I've been
answer that.
I can speak to that because remember how we went. I've always been very fortunate, and I've always, since I was a teenager, have done a lot of commercials and voiceovers.
Yeah.
And I pray to the gods of commercial and voiceovers because they have, saved me. However, remember I talked about the 90s being great and then ending not so great? Before I got pregnant, I think, gosh, it was the late 90s. I had gone out to LA for 6 months or something because, I was a hot shot and I was trying to make that happen. And the thing about LA was my commercial and voiceover connections and agents were in New York. So I went out to LA and I did a pilot, a guest on the pilot. I wasn't a series regular. I got cast in a Bruce Willis movie, like one scene, it got cut. But I was getting some things happening. But for 6 months, I wasn't on my commercial and voiceover beat. So my income dropped, my income level dropped because that stuff kind of can help. So when I came back from LA, I also owned my apartment at the time. I had a mortgage. And when I came back, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm a little tight. So I worked for like a few months. My neighbor was a photographer and he had these black and white photographs that he would sell to tourists all around New York City. And he had these stands. He's probably still out there doing it now. I had a stand. I would man one of his stands. I was on down by the stock exchange or, but in front of the Armani store or wherever. And I would sell these black and white framed. They were kind of touristy little tchotchkes. So I stood out there in the freezing cold and sold black and white photographs to tourists. And I was newly married, and my husband, when I was working downtown, he would come and meet me with a sandwich at noon. And I'm like, sitting on the street, like, do you know I was nominated for an acting award 2 years ago, people? Because I was. And anyway.
And now,
challenges? Is this about challenges, or was this about
challenges or to get those jobs? Right. So, and I think just that is a superb question. And for like Seth and I did personal training. So I would go to ladies' houses and exercise them. We also did catering. Seth and I both did catering. Seth was a paralegal. At the time, I was an assistant to like a research assistant to Dennis Rosa, who was working on, his Dracula script. So also temping was kind of big in the 90s of that, so also kind of finding those things that also, well, to make money that is going to kind of also feed your spirit. That,
or at least not going to squelch your spirit.
Right?
Yeah.
So and then that flexibility. I think it's hard to find those jobs that are a little flexible thing. I know people kind of nanny or the babysitting stuff is,
and obviously waitressing is always, or bartending,
Right? Yep, we did all that. The waiting, waiting tables, bartending, and but it's interesting, just all those connections. Also, that you never know when those connections are gonna, come up, and yeah. So those are some of the jobs that Seth and I did, and then we started just teaching those acting classes on Monday nights and started coaching people. So yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
I think we've all done those kind of survival jobs.
Yeah. When did you guys start teaching?
You know what, we started teaching like in the 90s, like
The Garrett, when you guys were at the Garrett?
at the Garrett. So we started then, but also even like Seth, I also have my Monday night acting class in the late 80s, 90s. I had that Monday night acting class because Mondays, if I was able to go to Capitol Rep and do a show, I could come back and teach them.
Thank you so much, Laurel.
Right.
Thank you so much. We're so
in the
grateful for
Garrett,
all your
and I
artistic
used to teach down on
creative
a
energy,
loft,
and
in
everyone
Soho.
stay safe
Nate
and
and
stay healthy.
Keely's,
And
I think I was in that apartment
Okay.
once or twice for
Yeah.
a reading or something. Yeah.
It is kind of, I know that people do body work and massage work, also healing work. So there are all kinds of, ways that you can, keep doing those survival jobs, and then keeping your expenses as low as possible, right?
Absolutely.
All your acting jobs that you get is through your manager or agent. I'm going to throw that to Amy.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
They are. Well, they are, but a lot of I get straight offers a lot of times, especially in the independent film world, because I'm kind of like a known quantity there, I guess. So I'd have people just come straight to me with offers, but that always filters through my reps.
Right.
Occasionally things like what I was saying about, Instagram, like helping out Amy LaJoie for her, funny videos. Those are like jobs, but they're not, I'm not getting paid. I just, sign, there's like, SAG new media stuff that I sign a waiver and I do that for free, basically.
Right. Right.
And that I don't even bother to tell my agents about that because it's not,
Right.
meaningful.
It's so wonderful though, too, like just sometimes you never know where those acting jobs are going to come from. That's why the more people that you kind of keep meeting just with the actors and the directors, and even that living proof, Alan Coulter saw me in a play. Yeah, so it must have been 94 when we did that, because I did, that Tales from Hollywood in 1993. And so he just gave that to me. So I didn't have to audition for that.
I worked with him twice as well. And because I'm 1,000 and I can't remember, I did a project for HBO that he directed. I think I did that first. That was with Callista Flockhart, otherwise known as Ally McBeal. Anyway, he directed that. I was in that. I think it was 92. And then I did Living Proof a year or two later. And I don't remember if I auditioned or if he gave me, but either way, I love those relationships that come back around, and they don't always come back around when you think. It's not always a year or two. It could be 10 years later and somebody's like, hey, come do this thing.
Right. So all those connections that you're meeting, a lot of those jobs may not come from your agent or your manager, but from your community, your creative community, and the friends that you are creating things with.
Right. So, but your agent or manager will always negotiate contracts for you, and it's and that's why I guess some people are like, oh, why would you pay your agent if they came straight to you with an offer? It's like, that's not what it's about. Like, your relationship is about so much more than that. Yes, an agent needs to find you your next job, but they need to negotiate a contract, and that's enormous. It's enormous. Even if there's not bazillions of dollars in play, there's lots of fine points that need to be addressed and you need to be protected. And
and it's a working relationship. It's a working relationship.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't fully understand the difference between agents and managers. So I find it helpful to just kind of elaborate on that sometimes. The manager legally can't negotiate your contract. The agent does that, but the manager can help and put their 2 cents in. But a manager is much more about like the big picture of your career and, helping you, meet people, get in rooms, have auditions, absolutely, but just kind of more about the big picture of things.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. So we only have a couple more minutes, but thank you for all of these questions. But so Amy, if you were going to kind of give advice to some younger people that are starting out in this time, this COVID time, like in their 20s, excited to come out into the world and be creative, anything that you might say to these lovely people?
Ooh, I would just say be open. Always say yes. Be
Always.
creative, and really focus on fostering that creative community, because it's so meaningful. Look, people that you meet when you're 20, here we are years and years later, still collaborating on things together, and it's these are meaningful relationships. And when you meet someone you click with creatively, foster that, water that relationship, and let it grow, because those are the best. That's kind of like the best part of what we do, I think, the relationships we create. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. This is so much fun, so much fun.
Did it.
Thank you all for joining us today, and take care and stay healthy and stay creative and keep nurturing your creative community. And we will see you all soon. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.